It's Free Talk Live, kicking off day number 3 of Anarchapulco. Well, actually, it's not really day number 3 as we're recording this. It's still day number 2. But, that's the benefit of recording a show is we can kind of do things whenever we need to get it done, and we don't have to wait till our live hours to do it. So at this point, I can't tell you how the Ron Paul speech was because it hasn't happened yet, even though it did happen before you're hearing this. Anyway, it's Anarchapulco. You can go to anarchapulco.com to learn more about it. Ian and Mark generally in the studio, but Mark is also heading up the Cryptopulco stage here, and so he's mostly on stage introducing speakers and things like that, but I'm sure we'll be hearing from him here in just a little bit. But to start out today's show, I've got a New Hampshire buddy of mine, Chris Pacia, is here with me. Hey, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I know that I guess we saw you here last year. I don't remember if we interviewed. Did we interview you?
I think
last
so,
year?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know that we've had you at Keenvention. You were on the Bitcoin panel a few years ago with Gavin Andreessen. And,
yep.
You are an early mover for the Free State Project, right?
Yeah, that's right. I've been there 4 or 5 years right now. I lose track of time. Thanks.
Where do you live?
Manchester right now.
Okay, all right. Big city?
Yeah, well... Small city
for New Hampshire,
the biggest one in New Hampshire.
Yeah, for New Hampshire, it's the big city. It's got buildings higher than 5 stories.
Yeah,
you can't have a building higher than 5 stories in Keene.
Yeah,
where I live. So when you moved up to New Hampshire, and we'll talk about Open Bazaar and some of your projects and stuff like that coming up here. But when you moved to New Hampshire, because we haven't talked a lot about New Hampshire yet on these shows here from Anarchapulco, even though there are several people here from the so-called Free State, New Hampshire.
Yep.
What was your motivation?
Motivation was primarily to get out of New Jersey. Right?
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, between the taxes and the gun laws and just not a lot going on. There's very few Liberty people. I met one other one, actually. Dan, he's actually here at the conference that I knew from New Jersey. He was one of the few Liberty people I knew in New Jersey. I actually met him during the 2012 election where he saw my Ron Paul bumper sticker and just came up and knocked on my window. So that was my one and only libertarian friend in New Jersey.
Is he still there?
Yeah, he's still there.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Got to get him out of there.
But no, it was very refreshing kind of moving to New Hampshire where you have a lot more friends who share your values and your vision and that sort of stuff, and people you can talk to about interesting stuff.
Did you know that was cryptocurrency a factor in your move at the time? Did you know there was a scene or that there was interest?
A little bit.
Were you programming for crypto projects at that point already?
Yeah, I was. I knew Zach and Josh. I had met them, I think, once before.
Those are the founders of Lamasu.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's for listeners that don't know, that's one of the original cryptocurrency vending machine companies based
ATM.
Originally in New Hampshire. Yep. They've since, I think, left to Prague or something like that.
They've been moving around Europe. I haven't kept up, but yeah, it was pretty cool back in the day in New Hampshire there.
So there was some excitement. That was what brought you libertarian. Have you been libertarian your whole life, or was there a conversion at some point?
I started early to mid 20s. It was mostly after I finished college, and then I went to grad school. It started around 2007 when the housing market started collapsing. I kind of wanted to know why, and so I started looking into it, and that just went down a big rabbit hole that ended up with me being an anarchist. So.
Okay, all right. Well, you've come to the right conference then.
Yeah.
So let's see. You are involved with Open Bazaar, and that is something that actually Mark just did an interview at the Miami Bitcoin conference with somebody from Open Bazaar. I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was.
Maybe Brian.
But we just put it on the air a few days ago here as an after show. Open Bazaar is an interesting concept, one that basically, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm going to try to summarize it, one that allows anybody in the world to sell basically anything that they want to sell to anybody they want to sell it to without having an intermediary. So basically you cut out the eBay, you cut out the Amazons, you cut out these intermediary authoritarians who decide, well, you can't sell that here. So I'll give you an example. In Amazon, you see the Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree DVDs here on the table. Victimlesscrimespree.com. You can go watch it for free online. But the DVDs, it's kind of like a collector's item. People that are big fans of the movie and enjoy having a physical copy of it. For a while, we had an official, the manufacturer of that DVD was able to sell it on Amazon. Well, they decided they didn't want to stock it anymore because it barely sold. Sorry, I wish we were more popular than we are, but we're not. So it barely had any sales, and so they're like, yeah, we don't want to deal with this anymore. Do you want the extra copies? I'm like, yeah, send them over. So they sent me like 100-something of these things, and so I'm like, all right, well, can I sell these on Amazon? Or actually, it was Conan, who's a Free Talk Live co-host. He's got a regular account that he does a lot of book sales on Amazon. So I was like, hey, Conan, can you sell these things? Like, yeah, I could, but Amazon requires paperwork. You have to certify that you're like the official vendor or something like that. And well, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm the producer. I produced this movie. This is my movie, and Amazon would not accept paperwork from me for whatever reason. And like purportedly, it's to protect against piracy is the idea. But I couldn't sell my own DVD that I produced that I would, certify. Hey, look, that's my name in the titles. That's mine. They wouldn't do it. So I put it up on Open Bazaar. It's there. Nice. No one's bought it yet, but I'm hoping that someday I will actually get somebody to buy it through Open Bazaar. If you want to check it out, go to victimlesscrimespree.com. You can try ordering it through there. Yep. Which actually I guess you can't really do right now because my laptop is where I run Open Bazaar, but I've got a sanitized laptop here, so it doesn't have Open Bazaar on it or anything. Mm-hmm. So when I get back to New Hampshire, it will again be available on Open Bazaar. Because since there's not an intermediary, if you're not running your Open Bazaar server, and if if you're logged in, then your products are online. If you're not logged in, if that computer's not on, they're not online, right?
To some extent. So there is some caching and stuff that goes on. So if you log off for maybe up to a week, the product should still be available. But
oh, really?
If you don't like open it up at least once a week and let it rebroadcast everything and sync with the network, then your products will probably drop out.
Well, plus if you're not there, you won't get the order, and that's not good customer service.
Yeah,
you don't want to leave your customers hanging like that.
Yep.
So, tell me the benefits of cutting out the middleman when it comes to Open Bazaar versus these other platforms.
Yeah. So, I mean, just from a financial benefit, there's eBay is going to take like 10%, right? And this isn't not even including what PayPal's going to take on top of that. Mm-hmm. And other platforms do something similar, maybe slightly different models. But in Open Bazaar, without any middleman, we don't have that issue. And so there's no one there who can say, well, this is our platform, we're going to take a cut of it. And so there's a lot of interest certainly from like vendors who say like, look, I may only have a 5 or 10% profit margin on my stuff. And if I have to pay 10%, if I don't have to pay 10% to eBay, I can like double or triple my profits.
Or you can even lower your price.
Yeah, or lower prices. Yeah, this sort of stuff. So there's definitely a lot of interest from people who want to use it like that. We're having probably maybe a little bit more difficult time on like the buyer side. I think it's a harder sell to buyers because they need to use cryptocurrency, which certainly people in our community are more familiar with it. Yeah. But like mainstream users are a lot less familiar with it. There's also right now it's just a downloadable app. And so this is one of the things we're working on. We've got, hopefully in the next couple of months, we're going to have a mobile app coming out that can be used on mobile devices that will basically do the same thing. The name is actually called Haven. Slight different branding name, but it's still basically Open Bazaar under the hood, uses the same code base. So that one's going to be coming out.
And that's focused around the buyer, the Haven?
Yeah. Well, I think you can actually sell stuff on it too. But yeah, it's intended to kind of be a little bit more of kind of an integrated shopping experience on the phone, similar to what like maybe the Chinese are familiar with like WeChat and stuff like that. But where you control your own data and your own keys and this sort of stuff. So that'll be coming out in a couple months. We're also beginning work on what we hope to be kind of a web version of Open Bazaar. We can do a fully peer-to-peer version in the browser. So the browser can actually make peer-to-peer connections to the network, and then we can you don't have to go through like a centralized portal to buy stuff, which would be interesting too. So we'll see if we can get that done.
Can you stick with me for another segment and talk more about Open Bazaar on the way here with Chris Pacia, one of the programmers over there. He's also involved with Bitcoin Cash, so maybe we'll touch on what's going on over there. Lots to talk about here at Anarchapulco, and it's, like I said, very heavy on cryptocurrency. Of course, there's an entire track, an entire stage dedicated to it, and that's what Mark's been heading up this morning. More coming up here from Anarchapulco 29. This is Free Talk Live at Anarchapulco 2019. Another beautiful day. There's just all beautiful days. It barely rains at all, apparently, here in Acapulco. Mark did a check last week on the weather, and it's only like 50 inches a year, so pretty dry, considering the fact we're right next to the Pacific Ocean here at the Princess Resort. Absolutely gorgeous location, and the people here are wonderful as well. Everybody in the hotel is here for this event. They've rented the entire hotel out, so you don't want to miss this next year. It's been fantastic. Yep. AnyPay.global, by the way, a great sponsor here at Free Talk Live. Actually, was just talking with Derek, Jay, and Steven just a few moments ago. Some of the cool stuff happening behind the scenes at AnyPay. It's very exciting. And they finally, I can announce this now, egifter.com. This is one of those websites, Chris, where you can go and get like gift cards, right? Now you can pay with Dash. And it's thanks to AnyPay. So AnyPay started as a company focusing on, and they still focus on the merchant experience, the real-life paying with cryptocurrency, which we do all the time. And you do it in Manchester, I'm sure, at like Murphy's Tap Room.
Yep.
And, I don't know what else there is in Manchester. I don't think there's a whole lot. But in Keene and Portsmouth, there's dozens of businesses in New Hampshire that take crypto thanks to AnyPay.global. And they're expanding out of not just New Hampshire. They're hitting Africa now, Nigeria. They've got a group of college students that has been hitting the local businesses around the college, and very, very cool stuff. But now egifter.com, like I said, you can buy gift cards to a bunch of different places on eGifter, like big names that you're used to, and you can pay with Dash, and it's AnyPay that's making it possible.
I think it's using the instance end, right? The Dash.
No, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. Just normal old Dash payments.
Okay.
So, but that's cool because now they're breaking into the world of online e-commerce. This is their first big online customer, because usually an AnyPay customer is going to be like a local mom and pop business. So this is big news for them. So if you want to buy gift cards with Dash, you can now do it. egifter.com, thanks to AnyPay.global, and check them out if you're a merchant. You want to start accepting Bitcoin or Dash or other cryptocurrencies. They've got several of them that you can accept now through AnyPay.global. It just doesn't get any easier than the system that they have set up. So check that out. Chris Pacia joining me. I'm Ian Freeman here in our remote studio in beautiful Acapulco for Anarchapulco. We were talking about Open Bazaar.
Yep.
Is it openbazaar.org? Is that the site?
Yeah, so it's .org. There's also like a web portal on openbazaar.com.
Oh, really?
Where you can kind of view the products that are on there. You can't buy through it yet, but the plan is, as I was mentioning before, was to transform the .com into something that's kind of similar to the desktop app experience.
Now, you're one of the programmers working on Open Bazaar.
Yep.
It's a project that's been going on for a few years now, because I remember talking with one of the guys about this thing 3 or 4 years ago at least.
Yep.
It finally came out, then it went to 2.0, fixed a lot of the initial bugs about it, and it seems like a pretty solid platform right now.
Yeah, it's getting more stable. We just recently released a version that contains you can use multiple cryptocurrencies at the same time. This took unfortunately a lot longer to program that than we would like, but so you can do Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Zcash. I think we have Ethereum coming.
When you say you can do it, you mean as the seller you can accept?
Well, both.
Or as the buyer?
Yeah. So sellers can accept anything that's listed. They can choose which ones they want to accept from that list, and then buyers can pay with whatever's compatible with what the vendor's asking for.
I see. So if I, as a seller, I only want to take in Bitcoin and Dash, then the buyer can only pay with those two things at this time.
Yeah, we don't have Dash yet, but I've looked into it.
Sorry, I don't
think I don't think Dash is going to be terribly difficult to integrate, so I imagine that would be one of the easier ones.
It's Litecoin, right? They just forked from Litecoin.
Yeah.
So it's a way for listeners just tuning in. Open Bazaar, the real, I think, attraction to this is so many people have had frustrations with eBay. You mentioned the fees.
Yep.
They're exorbitant. And and the other day I was listening to Mark's interview with another guy from Open Bazaar. He pointed out that eBay's system's kind of dated. I mean, it looks old. It looks like the way it always has from the late 1990s or whatever. And so this allows you to cut out the middleman. And anytime, and this is one of the greatest things about cryptocurrency in general allows you to cut out the middlemen of banks and governments from money. And then the technology also allows cutting out middlemen of just, service and products. And so if you can cut out eBay, what is it that they actually do? They connect you with the customer. That's all eBay does. They provide a search. there's some level of customer service if somebody tries to rip you off or whatever. What happens in Open Bazaar if there's an issue? Let's say the seller is a new seller, they don't have any reputation built up, but you're willing to take a risk and it doesn't work out. This person turns out they're a scam artist. You've paid. I mean, presume the customer must pay up front, right? Because nobody's going to ship unless the payments come in.
Yep. So this is actually one of the services that eBay provides, and it's, I guess, part of what that 10% fee you're paying to eBay gets you. On Open Bazaar, we have we've created a marketplace for arbitration. So any user on the Open Bazaar platform could set themselves to be an arbitrator. We call it a moderator on the platform, but a moderator is someone who can moderate or arbitrate these disputes.
Any user? So even a user with no reputation whatsoever?
Well, so anyone can set themselves like that, but the thing is, it's the vendor chooses which moderators he's willing to use. And then, so he's obviously not going to pick one that doesn't have a good reputation, sort of stuff. And the buyer then considers that moderator as part of the bundle of services that he's buying, right?
So the buyer knows in advance, this is going to be, if there's an issue, here's the moderator.
Yeah, and so if the moderator doesn't seem kind of trustworthy, then just don't use that one. To kind of start bootstrapping the reputation, our company is actually, we kind of vet these moderators a little bit, and we have a list of ones we recommend, that people that we've vetted personally, and we recommend them. But
do you have any statistics on how often these are utilized? Out of 100 transactions, does one of them go south, or is it less than one? Or
it's hard. We don't have a whole lot of visibility into these type of statistics, but I'm under the impression that it's not.
That's because it's decentralized. So you wouldn't necessarily.
Yeah,
know.
Exactly. Yeah,
okay.
But I don't think there's a whole lot of actual disputes. I think more frequently than not, something comes up. It's more like a bug in the software or something than it is where there's actual disagreement between the different parties.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right, so that's good. So you've got a decentralized method of handling disputes.
Yep.
That's important. Now, does the dispute handler get a cut? Do they get some sort of benefit from that?
Yeah, so the way the platform works is only if there's a dispute does the dispute handler get a cut. In fact, he doesn't even know about the order unless
Why should he?
Unless there's a dispute. So the actual moderator doesn't see anything until there's an actual dispute, and then he doesn't get a cut until he resolves it. And then he can set his own fees for how much he's willing to take for that service. But
which is all specified in advance in the sale.
Yep.
Okay. So this is available now. I mean, Open Bazaar is happening now. Do you have any? It's decentralized. Do you have any idea of how many items are up there? How many?
I think there's 13,000 listings right now
globally.
A decent amount, and it's been picking up a little bit now with the latest release and some of the other stuff that we've got coming on. I think we still haven't quite nailed the same user experience as eBay. Like you mentioned, eBay seems a little dated, but they still have some features and stuff like product curation, browsing that our app still doesn't quite
have it yet.
Quite reach that. And so I think that's our goal, is to try and get sort of feature parity with a lot of these bigger applications, and then hopefully go from there.
I love it. I'm a fan, even though no one's ever bought my Dark Exchange Victimless Crime Spree DVD.
Yeah.
But if you want to try that out, as soon as we get back from Anarchapulco, it'll be back up and available to you. Go to victimlesscrimespree.com to check it out. If we get a chance, let's have you back, talk about Bitcoin Cash, but
sure.
We're out of time for right now. We'll get some other guests we've got to get on here. From Anarchapulco 2019, that's Chris Pacia from openbazaar.org. More coming up here. This is Free.
Bitcoin.com is delighted to announce their latest partnership with the gift card specialists at eGifter. With many of the world's leading brands on their roster, it is now easier than ever to get the gift cards of your favorite brands with Bitcoin Cash. To get started, just follow these simple steps. Visit giftcards.bitcoin.com, pick the gift card you want, follow the instructions on your screen, and make your payment using your Bitcoin Cash wallet. Sit tight and your gift card will be delivered to you as soon as it's ready. That's giftcards.bitcoin.com.
This is Free Talk Live, and we're here at Anarchapulco 2019 on what is... You're hearing it on day number 3. We're actually recording it on day number 2, just because we've got so many great people to talk to here at this convention. And even though there's a lot going on here, we're sitting next to the Cryptopulco stage, And so we're, naturally going to talk to more people that are in the world of cryptocurrency. We're really interested in that stuff, too. And Mark Edge is joining me for this one. Let me turn your microphone up there, Mark. Welcome. Hello, can you hear me all right?
I can't hear you,
See,
no.
That's a problem, so I'll have to make sure I look at you. There's a large crowd of people in here, yep. and so anybody can hear that in the background. So as I was saying, we're into cryptocurrency. Mark, you've been hosting the Anarchapulco stage here. You just sent over a person that we ought to be talking to because we're big fans of Dash on Free Talk Live. Dash was a sponsor of Free Talk Live for, 2017, basically, for the whole year. And so you actually had a presentation, a movie on the Anarchapulco stage, and this is the producer of that movie. Rod Anbrissi is with us here. It was a movie about Venezuela. Rod, welcome.
Thank you very much for calling me a producer. I normally call myself a YouTuber, but yeah, I think a producer is an upgrade.
Well, if you put some money into it, you're probably the producer,
correct?
Right?
Yeah.
So in that case,
it was a great video. I watched it. I'm there in the room the whole time, and up to this point. I got a little grumpy with Dash, right? And it's probably a self-serving issue. They didn't want to sponsor my radio show anymore, right?
Down.
I didn't like that. I felt like the feedback mechanisms and the voting platform was making me grumpy. And the two things that I saw getting voted in the Dash network was Dash Core getting the lion's share of the money that's coming from Dash, and then all the folks from Venezuela. And I'm like, I don't see anything happening in Venezuela. Rod produced a video that convinced me otherwise. What's going on in Venezuela?
All right, everybody. So, I'm also a proposal owner for Dash. So, the network, the Masternode Network, decided to approve my proposals for Dash Brazil, which I create content for Dash, a podcast just
That's
like
where you're
this
from.
one.
You're from Brazil.
I'm from Brazil. Okay. So I create a podcast just like you guys, plus the YouTube channel with videos, interviews with the toppest name in crypto, plus all the explanation videos about how to download a wallet, integrations and business and all that. So the community in Venezuela actually got to know my channel as well and follow, and they invited me to go there to speak. I became a very popular speaker in Latin America talking about blockchain, Dash, digital cash, and the cryptocurrency revolution. Just last year, I was invited to speak in over 30 events from Tokyo to 4 times in Colombia, to Venezuela, Mexico, Brazil 4 times as well. And the community in Venezuela invited me to go there to give them a lecture. Meanwhile, as a YouTuber, I start getting all the footage of me because it was something interesting. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go leave Venezuela. I live in the U.S. I'm from Brazil, but I live in the U.S. And I'm like, well, I'm going to actually leave U.S., go to Venezuela to host a lecture. And I start getting all that footage to make a video log. Halfway through, on the second day, once I arrived in Venezuela, there was so much happening of cryptocurrency adoption, especially with Dash, that I start getting more and more footage. A week later, I got back home, and I'm like, I need to do something better with just a video log. So I put it together, a documentary about my experience.
How long is it? 20 minutes?
29 minutes.
29? Is it that long? I'm really surprised. Okay, it didn't feel like 29 minutes.
Good. So 29 minutes, it shows me leaving my house, taking the bus, the plane, paying breakfast, lunch, and dinner, gas, taxi, everything, 100% with Dash Digital Cash for 1 week in Venezuela. And the documentary took off. There's tons of views. By the time I finished editing the documentary, the number of merchants already had double.
Wow.
In Venezuela. It jumped from 300 to 600 in like a month. It's over.
Amazing.
It's almost 3,000 merchants accepting Dash today in Venezuela.
Right. So I saw this video. The guy, buys his ticket through cheapair.com. Anybody can do that. Yeah. You don't need to be going to Venezuela to buy your plane ticket. You can go from Poughkeepsie to Boise if that's what you want to do. And you can buy your ticket through cheapair.com. I've done it multiple times. Yeah. So he buys his ticket to Venezuela, lands in Caracas, picked up by a Dash taxi. Goes to a Dash restaurant for their first Dash meal, eats there.
Hold on. How do you find a Dash taxi? Do you have to call a specific company that is known to accept Dash?
Well, the community arranged everything, so it was quite easy for me. I didn't look for places. They already had an itinerary for me, and they brought me to all those places.
Okay.
Yep. But at this point, there's, with almost 3,000 businesses. Many of those businesses are restaurants. He ate every...
No, hold on. That's 3,000 businesses in all of Venezuela, right? Is it Caracas has about 1,000? Is that right? Or is it more than that now?
I don't know it's specific, but Caracas, the capital, is where the majority of businesses are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So you're talking about he ate every meal, and including drinks. So you're talking about like 4 restaurants a day, which he's going to be packing it on here if he keeps that kind of thing up. And each time paying with Dash, goes to the Dash headquarters, shows the events that they're going to, shows the people waiting outside, 1,000 people waiting outside just to see these events and find out more about money. Because Americans aren't doing this.
No,
Americans are happy and fat and sassy with their money.
Right, and that's why this is working so well in Venezuela.
They desperately need a money that works.
Right, because we've been covering Venezuela for years. We've never been there, but as best we can from the outside, explaining to people why things are so bad there. It's not just because of socialism; it's also because of monetary policy, and there's just a cavalcade of various different bad policies that have come together over the years to impoverish these people and destroy the money supply there. And we had a guy on the phone that you met at the Miami Bitcoin conference who called in, and he said when you go into Venezuela and you go into a bar and you order a drink, by the time you order the next drink, the price has gone up.
Hyperinflation eats everything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's crazy. And so
that's pretty amazing. You want to order 5 drinks at happy hour or whatever. You're going to drink
do it all at once.
And you want them sit at once because otherwise you're just not going to have enough money for the next go around.
Right. Yeah. So it's insane what's happening to the money there. And so, one of the big objections in countries where money's a little more stable, where it just, more stably loses value over time, which is what all fiat currencies do. People look at cryptocurrencies like Dash or Bitcoin and are like, that's too volatile. Well, it ain't as volatile as the Bolivar. At least cryptocurrency can go up in value and frequently does.
Or the pesos in Argentina. Now Argentina is the next country to dive into economic collapse.
Is that right? Is that happening now?
So what Argentina can see is let's say that you live in a world where Venezuela has had some level of some high level of adoption, where it's where Dash or some cryptocurrency. Dash is looking like the kingmaker here, but Dash is the currency for Venezuela. Then Argentina comes along, and this happens all the time. Every 5 years, you're finding some country that's flying into hyperinflation.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be in Central America. It doesn't have to be in South America. It could be in Africa, Southeast Asia. There's all kinds of places. Then they see the blueprint for how this is done. Okay, well, there's a currency out there that we can implement, and it immediately creates international trade too, because I can send Dash right now to somebody in Venezuela. All they have to have is a telephone, and I can send them some Dash, and they can go have dinner.
And cool thing about it is it doesn't have to be a smartphone. They managed to have something called Dash Text, where you can send with the old flip phone, you can send the codes plus the amount of money, and that goes from a flip phone to a flip, like not through a smartphone, but goes from one wallet to another.
This is Cointext, right?
Well,
Using
that's
Dash?
called Dash Text. They also have one like Cointext.
But it is Cointext on the using Dash, right?
No, different.
It's a competitor?
Yeah, it's a competitor. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just in Venezuela at the moment.
Oh, interesting. Because the guy who runs Cointext, Vin Armani, is one of our co-hosts from New Hampshire, and they have a Dash side of Cointext. So they started with Bitcoin Cash, but they did a Dash end of.
No, the guys in Venezuela did on their own. It's called Dash Text.
Okay.
And you'll send via text message Dash.
Cool. It's a very cool thing. We've tried Cointext in the U.S., and they've actually expanded out to a bunch of other places as well. So, it's interesting.
I've got to say that I'm pretty impressed. I mean, having watched this video, I think I'm going to recommend everybody go see it.
Pretty skeptical to pretty impressed.
Oh, yeah. Mad. I don't know about skeptical. Mad.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the best way to describe it. I'm in touch with my emotions. I don't mind saying when I'm mad. And, emotions aren't attached to logic. They aren't attached to information necessarily. What I saw is I got new information, and I'm pretty impressed with what I've seen.
Rod, can you stick with us to talk more about what's going on in Venezuela?
Of course.
All right, we're going to do another segment here with Rod. This is Free Talk Live. We're here at Anarchapulco 2019. This is Free Talk Live, Anarchapulco 2019, continuing the day number 3 episode here. I want to say thanks, by the way, to Jonathan, who's a platinum amplifier, and that means that he is helping us advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live. So he's doing, as a platinum, he's doing $25 a month. We only ask for $5, and it makes a big difference if you can just do $5 a month, the price of a fancy, cup of coffee or a hamburger. Adds in, to all the other people who contribute. And there's only around 200, just under 200 amplifiers for this show, and it makes a big difference for us because it gives us a marketing budget. It allows us to promote Free Talk Live, to get on more radio stations. We're almost at 200. Hopefully we'll get there, within the next few months. But it's the Free Talk Live amplifiers like Jonathan who make this possible. And you get some cool perks if you sign up over at amp.freetalklive.com. You can learn more about it there. That's ampamp.freetalklive.com. You can do PayPal. You can do credit card. You can do Bitcoin, BTC. It's amp.freetalklive.com. Now, we're talking about Dash, and specifically Dash's presence in Venezuela. Rod Anbrissi is here, and you helped produce, direct, and did you edit it as well? Did you do everything?
Also a star, and I walk, I do everything. It's a one-man show.
Yeah, that's how it is in a lot of productions these days. And what is the name of the documentary?
It's called Venezuela and the Cryptocurrency Revolution. It's on YouTube. It's free. You can download, burn it to a DVD, sell to people, make money, do whatever you want.
Now, it's about a half an hour long, you said. I haven't seen it yet because I've been sitting out here the whole time. But like I said, I'm a fan of Dash. I live in Keene, New Hampshire, and I don't know if you've heard about New Hampshire's Dash scene, but it's second to Caracas, basically. Like if you do per capita and you look at how many businesses per capita accept cryptocurrency, we got a dozen or so in a small town, right? So like a town of 23,000 people is a very, very high. We just destroy San Francisco, New York City, by multiple factors. So Venezuela is the other hot spot for this. And, of course, the difference between these places is in Venezuela, they desperately need a form of money that can hold value and is not subject to the politicians' whims. Because that's why, one of the reasons why things are so bad in Venezuela is the politicians just crank up the printing press and they just print out, Bolivar, and they then devalue the Bolivar, and they, then introduce a new Bolivar, the Bolivar Soberano, to replace the Bolivar Fuerte, which originally replaced the Bolivar. And so they're on their third iteration of this. The last time they changed it was in August of last year. They knocked 5 zeros off of the currency. So what was 500,000 Bolivar became 5.
Correct.
It's hard for people to really imagine that happening. And of course, the inflation just keeps on going. Nobody's fooled by this, right? In Venezuela, like they didn't fool anybody by knocking 5 zeros off and changing the name of the currency.
For a little bit, you create this illusion of value. But then it takes maybe a month and it goes back to how it was before, And talking about New Hampshire, actually, I was invited by a few members of the Dash community to go there to the Pork Fest, I think in June.
That's right.
June or July, to actually record the 3rd episode of the Cryptocurrency Revolution, because I was also in Colombia 2 months ago, and I recorded the 2nd part of the documentary called Colombia and the Cryptocurrency Revolution.
Oh, so this is going to be more than one part.
Oh, yeah, it's a series. We're turning to a series. I'm selling the copyrights to anybody who wants to buy. No, but I was showing how the Colombia took as an opportunity of the 2 million migrants from Venezuela that are now working and in Colombia and sending money back to their families in Venezuela using Dash, and how Colombia went from one business accepting Dash to over 350 business in just 1 year.
Yeah.
So there's the episode 2, which the 2nd documentary, I find it even better than the first one.
And is that one out yet?
Yeah, it just went out last week. I gave to the producers and the event organizers here. If there's time, they're going to play between some talks as well.
So wait, you did go to Pork Fest last year, or you're coming this year?
No, I'm going to go this year.
This year, okay.
Yeah, this year.
Okay.
The Colombia documentary is done.
Yeah.
I put it out 2 weeks ago, so we might play here in Anarchapulco.
So last year, after Pork Fest, which is, for listeners that don't know, that's the summertime Libertarian Camping Festival. It happens in New Hampshire. We also, of course, have Fork Fest, which happens the 5 days before Pork Fest.
Oh, they forked the event, too.
Yeah, if you're coming up for Pork Fest, come up a few days early and come out to Fork Fest. Actually, last year, Mark and Joel from the Dash Force News podcast, they were up at Pork Fest. And then afterwards, they came down to Keene, where we live and where we have our studio, and they did an episode of Free Talk Live with us. So if you get a chance, you ought to come on down after Pork Fest, and we'll take you on because there's two big crypto cities in New Hampshire. There's Keene on the west side of the state, and then there's Portsmouth on the east side of the state. Yeah. And these are the two hot spots where, per capita, we got a very, very high amount of Dash acceptance. You go into, you want to buy barbecue, pizza. You can get your car repaired with Dash. So in Venezuela, let's get back to this because this is way more interesting because we don't live there. In Venezuela, it's just a very crazy situation. It's incredibly dangerous right there. I mean, the crime rate's very, very high. People are poor. People get desperate when they're poor.
When I was watching the video, it didn't look so bad on the streets of Venezuela. Yeah. I got to say that.
Try driving a truck full of food somewhere and see how it goes for you. They're waylaying trucks on the road with gangs of people, and they're not hurting the driver if they can avoid it. They're just stealing all the food out of the back. So they desperately need money. They're interested in learning about this. Mark, you said there were lines of hundreds, if not 1,000 people waiting to get into seminars to learn about crypto?
Seminars to learn about Dash.
To learn about Dash? You witnessed this? You saw this?
It was from my event, from my lecture. Brazil actually became a specialist in money. Brazil went through the same thing during the 80s and the 90s about 7 times. In Brazil, we had over 1.2 trillion% inflation. The government, every couple months, would cut the zeros, change the name of the money, and they did that 7 times.
Jeez.
So growing up in Brazil as a kid, I saw the desperation of my family dealing from someone from a low-income class, from a middle class. My dad was a metal worker, and we saw the struggle. Even though I was a kid, I didn't understand much, but that's exactly what Venezuela is going through today. And I put a presentation exactly how the Brazilian history is actually happening exactly the same in Venezuela. In Venezuela right now. Once I was in Venezuela, the community was very careful, and they were with me the whole time. Mm-hmm. So I had a taxi driver with me the whole time, always a member of the community. I only hang out in the middle class to the upper class part of Caracas. The other parts are very violent and dangerous. They're like, we don't want even you to go risk yourself over there. But it was amazing to see how the food industry, restaurants, coffee shops, were the ones adopting crypto first.
Here's what I want to know, because once you can get businesses on board, that's good. We've done that in Keene. You've done it in Venezuela to a huge extent. How many of these businesses are paying their vendors? Meaning the restaurant is getting their food from a supplier, whatever food they can get, I imagine. But they're getting it from somewhere. Yeah. Are any of them paying their suppliers with Dash? Do you know about any?
Well, that's what the Dash community was very smart in Venezuela, now in Colombia as well. They set up incubators. So they don't just tell the merchant, okay, this is a wallet you can open and receive Dash. They have a program to teach every single merchant how to balance their books, how to make sure that they have a place to exchange Dash into fiat right away.
How does that work in Venezuela?
They have, I think, 2 or 3 exchange plus lots of P2P that accepts Dash.
Okay. So there's like a person who will come into the business and say, I'll buy that Dash from you.
Well, they recommend that
here's
people...
Here's a huge stack of Bolivar.
Well, yeah, not Bolivar, but because they have to provide liquidity. Some people don't want to accept crypto, some vendors, but the smart part was they create an entire program for the merchants, not just downloading the wallets, but they give all the instructions, how to look for people who buy the Dash from you, where you can buy more Dash, how much should you invest, or say, I want to keep, 90% fiat and 10% in Dash to make sure, use as a savings account. So all those programs, each community developed this in the best way to a specific business, and all this information was given to them through the Dash incubators on those communities.
So if you are an employee and you get paid in bolivars, your money's going to devalue. Are they getting paid weekly or daily, or how are they getting paid?
In bolivars?
Yeah.
I think it's monthly, like I would say, like it is in Brazil.
Right.
The average salary when I was there was about $1.80, and then with the new currency, it's about $3.50 now.
Per what?
Per month.
Okay, that's crazy.
For a middle class type of family job. So
you get your pay of $1.80 in bolivars, and by the end of the month, it's worth 3 cents.
Correct.
I mean, what would make the most sense is for people to immediately exchange their paycheck into Dash.
Correct.
So that they can then hold the value of their currency throughout the month, then exchange it day by day into bolivars if they needed to transact into those. One would presume over time, as people continue to do this, that more people would just transact in Dash, and then at some point or another, the wholesalers and the distributors will begin to accept the Dash too, because there's just a huge advantage in not having to constantly play this game of depositing and withdrawing and hoping that your money's getting the interest, and God knows, it's crazy.
Rod, can you stick with us for another segment? It's really interesting. I want to continue this here. We're at Anarchapulco 2019. We got hour number 2 on the way, and Anarchapulco.com is where you can learn more about that. This is free.
She seems happier. Her fur is so much shinier, silkier, softer. She has really mellowed a lot.
Sheba is 105 lean pounds of shiny, smooth, happy dog for life.
The shedding has stopped. The itching has stopped.
Since 2001, we've helped more than 250,000 dogs get over their nutritional deficiency miseries.
And saved our customers bazillions in vet bills.
Everything we tried failed except the Dynovite.
Come to Dynovite for help.
DINOVITE.com.
If you want the dog to be healthy, you got to feed it something healthy.
The omega-3 fatty acids,
flaxseed, zinc, alfalfa,
the digestive enzymes that are cooked out of regular dog food.
Dynovite is nutrition.
Dynovite for life.
Don't let your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy.
Come to Dynovite for help.
859-428-1000.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We're at Anarchapulco 2019, kicking off hour number 2 here with Ian and Mark in the remote studio. Beautiful Acapulco, Mexico, at the Princess Resort. Yet another beautiful day here in Acapulco. We're talking with Rod Anbrissi from Dash Brazil. And you're a producer, director, editor, writer. You've been producing some Dash-related documentaries. The first episode in Venezuela, and tell again our listeners where they can go to find these.
Well, you can find the first episode on YouTube. It is in English, just to let everybody know. It's called Venezuela and the Cryptocurrency Revolution, and part 2 is called Colombia and the Cryptocurrency Revolution, where I show the 2 million migrants from Venezuela who are now in Colombia working and sending money
back home,
buying Dash and sending money back to Venezuela, paying with Dash.
Yeah, now this is, for whether it's Dash or other cryptocurrencies like Dash are a great way for remittances to happen, meaning sending money from one country to another to family members. It's a way that you can cut out the middleman, you get rid of Western Union, you get rid of MoneyGram and the banks and all that, and you can just send value directly to the person that you care about, wherever it is that they are in the world, for like less than a penny, basically.
That's how I got into a Bitcoin in 2014.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm an immigrant. Yeah, I'm an immigrant. I live in the U.S. I've been here in the U.S. for over 20 years now.
I thought that accent was from Texas.
Yeah. And I was looking for a way how to send money back to my parents in Brazil. Yeah. And I don't remember which video, but I bumped into a Roger Ver's video on YouTube talking about this Bitcoin thing, and I didn't really understand Bitcoin, but I like Roger Ver's passion talking about Bitcoin.
Okay,
and
as do we.
Yeah, and that's how it got me into crypto.
You know that Roger Ver was introduced to Bitcoin by Free Talk Live.
Yeah,
so it's come full circle.
Yeah,
it's come full circle. Here you are.
I know it's fantastic.
So we're talking about Venezuela. If you're just tuning in and you don't know, it's a nightmare there. Political, the wranglings aside between the people claiming to be president, that's what's going on there now. Protests in the streets, massive currency devaluation, and the Venezuelan people have really apparently become very interested in cryptocurrency through necessity.
Correct.
And that's, whatever it takes, we're happy to see people get interested in crypto. If it helps them, feed themselves, that's even better.
I think that's what Dash saw at one point, is they saw that the need for it as opposed to the interest, right? Yeah. So in the United States, there's some level of interest in cryptocurrency, especially by people who realize that governments can use money for evil means, but there's not a need for it. You can continue. Many people go day to day in the United States without ever using any other currency besides the U.S. dollar. Yep. In fact, you can take your U.S. dollars to many other countries and use them there.
Especially in Venezuela.
You won't get the greatest exchange rate right at the cash register, but you can actually transact in U.S. dollars. However, in Venezuela, they're in a spiral of hyperinflation that they simply cannot pull out of. Their government, at this point, they've gone so far, their government cannot pull out of the hyperinflation spiral, even if Maduro got a little message from a talking bird that told him that that's what he needed to do.
That was amazing. That was amazing.
For those who didn't get the joke, Maduro talks to birds.
That's a story. It's a real news story.
And for me being there, I saw during the lectures, I host 2 lectures there.
How long were you there?
I was there for a whole week.
Okay.
For a whole week. And people were not there to do trading, how to learn graphic analysis. They want to
feed their family.
They want to feed their family. They want there to find a solution. They want to know a solution that they can hold the $2 that they make per month, even though Dash dropped 85% in the past year, and Bitcoin as well. But the Bolivar dropped, 1,000, 2,000% in value? So
if that, maybe more.
It was the best investment on the planet was to invest into Bitcoin, Dash, any type of crypto in Venezuela.
Anything's better. Than the Bolivar. And so this gives them options. It gives the community and the businesses have been onboarding with Dash big time, with literally thousands of businesses now. And just run through just a quick laundry list of some of the things that you did while you were there with Dash.
Playing the taxi driver, which was someone sent it to me. I didn't look for one. I don't think I would find one. Maybe now. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner into different restaurants, and those are like upper class type of restaurants, like fantastic cooking meals available for you.
I saw a video online of somebody paying at a Papa John's. So there's like some chains that are taking it
Papa
too,
John's,
right?
Subway, KFC. They were talking about it, and they announced. And then KFC probably shut them down, say, hey, we're not going to accept this. You're making too much publicity. But now they have something called Church Chicken. They have 18 stores that sell same thing as KFC that accept Dash as well. The thing for me was a medical lab. You can get X-ray, do blood exam, urine samples, and pay with a crypto, a motorcycle store. As well, and now literally, I don't even know how many more businesses are accepting Dash.
Well, there's
now.
a map, Dash.
Discover-Dash.com. You can find all the information there.
Once you achieve a certain level of synergy, a certain level of adoption, then you're going to see it go very quickly. Because here's what anybody who might be listening, dismissing all this as whatever, it doesn't apply to me. What you cannot deny is that cryptocurrency is superior money to the money you're using today. Sorry, it's superior money to the money you're using today.
And it's not hard to learn it.
Adoption isn't there necessarily. However, in Venezuela, if adoption gets high enough, then they will have this just mass wave of adoption.
Well, this leads me to my next
sweep the whole country. Once that occurs, then you have basically Dash, or some cryptocurrency, hopefully Dash, is then a national currency that can be used internationally, unlike any other currency.
Right.
That's huge.
Here's my concern. All right. So this Venezuelan government, particularly authoritarian, particularly bad. I mean, all governments are bad. But these guys are some of the worst. They have this scam coin that they've been promoting called the Petro. I'm not even calling it an S coin. It's a scam coin.
I thought it was a JP Morgan coin. No, that's not the
Different
one.
Story.
Oh, okay.
Different story. Also fake, not a real cryptocurrency. I talked about that on yesterday's episode, actually. So this Petro is this ridiculous joke. They launched it in February. It's been a year since they launched it with this pre-sale, and they claimed they were pre-selling it, and then you couldn't actually order it. The website was broken. They changed the white paper. They didn't change all the white papers. I mean, it was just an absolute mess. Half a year later down the line, then by the end of 2018, they were then selling paper certificates to represent one of these Petro so-called cryptocurrencies.
Right, try to pull their fat out of the fire by doing the same old trick. The trick is to have a paper representation of something of value. Well, they didn't even have the thing of value yet.
It's just crazy.
Anybody can go right now and set up a cryptocurrency. These people couldn't do it in a year.
No, they couldn't. It's ridiculous. So the Petro aside, What happens if, do you think there's a chance that the government's going to look at this, they're going to catch wind that people are using Dash and say, that's illegal. You can't use Dash anymore. We're going to crack down on it. You can only use our Petro, which you can't get, or the Bolivar. Is there any concern that this is going to get, because you can't use dollars legally in Venezuela, right?
Correct.
You cannot go to a store and hand somebody dollars legally to buy something.
Correct.
You might be able to do it under the table if you know the right people, but not legally. So is there a concern about that?
Yeah, for El Petro, it's just billboards and the president talking on TV. They have absolutely nothing. You cannot buy. At one point, they were developing the coin, the token inside the Nemxen blockchain, but it didn't go through. People over there are using Dash and Bitcoin. Bitcoin is number one. If you look on Google Trends for search, it's like Bitcoin number one. Dash is almost the same line, and then all the other cryptocurrencies way down on search trends. That's, I think, the only... We had a congressman in Brazil a couple of months ago, actually over 1 year ago. He wanted to criminalize the use of cryptocurrencies.
Oh, boy.
There was a bill to criminalize. Jeez. It didn't pass, of course.
Let me guess he was one of the socialists.
I don't know, man. Even
Probably.
Venezuela, it's not really about socialism or capitalism. That's just a disorganized country. Sure. They had no idea what they're doing. There's no ideology behind anything there. Each branch of the government, they don't talk to each other.
I've certainly heard some socialists talking from Venezuela how they everything's great and it's the U.S. that's messing everything out.
Right. So, and with this, the only thing I can possibly imagine is if the Congress, the Senate, or the President creates a bill to criminalize crypto, put on the same category as murder, drug trafficking, which makes absolutely no sense. But how are they going to enforce? Are they going to stop every single citizen and say, hey, let me see your cell phone, unlock your cell phone?
They're going to say, hey, if you're accepting crypto, then...
do sting operations on the businesses in that case.
Well, for Argentina, used as an example, Argentina criminalized the use of U.S. dollars.
You want to keep going? Yeah,
of course.
All right, we got more coming up here with Rod Anbrissi from Dash in Venezuela, South America. More coming up here in moments. This is Free Talk Live. We're at Anarchapulco. It's Free Talk Live from Anarchapulco 2019, talking in detail about what's going on with the cryptocurrency scene in Venezuela. One of the hottest, if not the hottest place as far as being able to spend crypto in real life. It's in Caracas, the capital city of Venezuela. But not just Caracas. There's other businesses outside of Caracas that are adopting Dash, and that's out of pure necessity. People there need money that they can hold on to that's going to hold value better than the Bolivar. Yeah, Dash could go down in value, and certainly like most cryptocurrencies in the last year, they've all gone down in value, which, of course, is a good time to get in. So if you are in Venezuela or anywhere in the world and you're just now getting into crypto, it's probably a good time, although we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. It still could go down some more. Who knows? But Rod, welcome back, and thanks for sticking on with me here for what has basically been a full-hour interview. It's Rod Anbrissi from Dash Brazil. Sorry, you wanted to comment, so.
Talking about, actually I forgot what I was going to say.
We were
so many people walking by. I just saw Jeffrey Tucker walking by as well.
Well, we were talking about, just before the break there, we were discussing the Venezuelan government, and my concern that, well, if they catch wind that Dash is catching on, because if it's just a few people using it, then they don't care. But if it's becoming a thing, and if it's a line of 1,000 people wanting to see a seminar about how cryptocurrency and how Dash works, that's becoming something that's there's buzz. There's people talking about it. So at some point that may make it to the Venezuelan government, and that's my main concern is what if they actually outlaw it? And also, does having the Petro being this laughable joke of just ridiculous nonsense, this is for those that don't know, the government created so-called cryptocurrency that basically doesn't even exist. You can't even get.
Backed by oil.
Ridiculous, supposedly backed by oil.
Correct.
Does having the Petro being promoted by the government, which is obviously a scam, obviously fake, does that hurt Dash? Does that hurt cryptocurrency in general in people's minds? Is like, oh, we don't want cryptocurrency. This is a joke. Does it, is there a disconnect, or are people able to see, oh, this is obviously not the government crypto? Do they understand the difference?
I think in this point, I'm going to say that thumbs up to President Maduro, because of him, he's the only president talk openly about cryptocurrency.
That's true.
On national television daily. And because of that, Nobody trusts the government.
Yeah.
You can't really turn it off your TV because it's on the TV, on the radio. But then you hear about the cryptocurrency thing. You hear about this Bitcoin thing. And people will not trust Del Petro because it comes from the government. But once they go and search what is crypto, they're going to find out what's Bitcoin. They're going to find out what's Dash. And that's why this mass adoption has been happening, because that conversation is on a presidential level in Venezuela, and that's pretty interesting.
So to some extent, and I agree with you, like to some extent having him talking about cryptocurrency promotes the idea of cryptocurrency, even if it's a bad one in the form of the petro. Then they get a little bit more information about real cryptocurrencies.
You want to know what it is,
and that can wash away the misinformation presented by the government.
And it's been pretty much everywhere, because the conversation it's out there. Traveling other countries, when I talk to people, governments, senators, mayors, you don't see people talking about crypto. And then once you try to start the conversation, and if you start trying to explain what's blockchain, you will lose them in 5 minutes.
Sure.
But once it comes from a higher level, even though their crypto doesn't exist, maybe will exist on one day, which I doubt it, because it comes from the government, they're not going to use that one. But then at one point, they will look for what is cryptocurrency, and the first search will be Bitcoin, Dash, and then you go from there.
Yeah, I think it's a very exciting time, especially in Venezuela. It's a crazy situation, and it's great that cryptocurrency like Dash is there, and it's because of the Dash, the masternode system. For listeners that are not, maybe listeners are newer to the show, but like I said, a year ago or more than a year ago, we had Dash on as a sponsor. For basically all of 2017. We did live promotions for Dash constantly, and of course we're on almost 200 radio stations, so getting the word out, at least in the United States, about Dash, there's some value there, but this is really a valuable thing. And so what makes Dash different from Bitcoin, one of the things that makes it different is there's this budget, this sort of marketing budget, for lack of a better term, the treasury that exists with Dash. It's 10% of all the mined Dash that comes into existence goes into this budget. So every month there's like about 6,000 Dash, I think, roughly.
Correct,
that 6,100 or so Dash that is available. Now, obviously, as the value of Dash changes, that amount can, the value of that can go pretty high to somewhat low. So we're on the lower side of it at the moment, with all the prices coming down over the last year. But there's a good marketing budget there every single month. That is what has funded your documentary. That is what has funded Free Talk Live talking about Dash for over a year. We're currently not in an agreement with Dash, but we'd love to get back in someday.
Hey, let's work on that.
But, we've got to... The idea is you've got to sell these masternodes. These are people who are holders of Dash. They're large holders of Dash. Now, in the early days when Dash was, a cent, it was no big deal to buy 1,000 Dash and become a masternode. Today, at 1,000 Dash, it's close to $100. What is it? $70, $80? Where's it right now?
79, something like
that. Yeah, so $80.
This.
You're looking at a significant investment in order to become a masternode in that case. So there's about 4,500 masternodes. These are the people who do this voting. Anyone can propose to the Dash masternodes, whatever it is they want to propose, as long as they're willing to put up 5 Dash to do so. So you got to really be serious about it.
Yeah.
And so you put up 5 Dash, which is $400 or whatever it is right now, and then the masternodes can vote on that. And that is what has made Venezuela possible. That's why Dash, as opposed to the 2,000 other cryptocurrencies out there, that's why it's Dash. It's not just because it's digital cash and that's how it's marketed. It's because it's marketed. It's because there is a marketing budget to send these teams out there to rent hotel rooms to, or wherever it is, whatever arenas they're having.
I came here to speak on Anarchapulco, and before yesterday, I was in Brazil talking at the campus party, the largest tech and gamers event in Latin America. Because of Dash, they sponsor my plane tickets and hotels and expenses to do things like this. And it's open to anybody, as long as your idea will, of course, bring value to the network. The masternode system is not there to give money away to people. It has to bring some sort of value to the network. And let's work on your ideas. It's open to anybody.
Yeah, and so when I had proposed we'd proposed Free Talk Live to the Dash Masternodes for a renewal, and we got turned down. And it was like, oh, that's a bummer because we thought we did a good job, and we did do a good job. But the money is a little tighter in supply, and the Masternodes have to decide where to put it. And so they've decided Venezuela is more important. And I can't say I disagree with them. It's definitely more important to help people feed their families. Whereas in New Hampshire, for instance, where we're doing pretty well. I mean, as far as New Hampshire is probably second to Venezuela in the world as far as Dash accepting businesses per capita in real life. But the difference there is we've got to sell Dash based on merit. Like, it's not desperate. People aren't desperately hungry. They don't need a new option for money. So we have to sell and show people why cryptocurrency like Dash is a good idea to adopt just on its own volition, just on the benefits of having to satisfy your customers. Your customers want to use this, so you should do it, or the potential that it could go up. So it's a harder pitch. It's a harder sell, to go into a business owner that is, they're okay. They're paying their bills.
They don't really need it. They don't really need it.
They don't really need to do it. But we've managed to do it. And it's having that group, that core group of activists. And you said you might be coming to New Hampshire this summer.
I hope so,
yes.
Right?
So it'll be fun to kind of take you around.
I'd love to.
I'd love to. On the New Hampshire version of the Dash Tour, because it's just the same thing. In fact, these guys right here that just walked up to the table, if you've never met the guys from AnyPay, you've got to. In fact, that might lead me to, I don't have any more time for questions. It's been a whole hour.
It's been great, man. It's been great.
I hope we'll get to see you again this summer in New Hampshire, Rod. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for the invite.
I appreciate it. And more coming up. It's Free Talk Live from...
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dynovite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynovite.
Everything we tried failed except the Dynovite.
Pick up 2 bottles of Super Mega Fish Oil.
Get the 3rd bottle free. Packed with omega-3, DHA, and EPA fatty acids.
Super Mega is great for your dog's immune system, healthy skin, and soft, shiny fur.
Dogs love it. Try Super Omega Fish Oil.
Buy 2, get 1 free.
At Dynovite.com.
DINOVITE.com.
It's Free Talk Live at Anarchapulco 2019, brought to you by Bitcoin.com, your premier source for everything Bitcoin related. You need help choosing a Bitcoin wallet, buying your first fraction of a Bitcoin. They can also show you where you can spend Bitcoin. Plus, if you're old school, you want to get the latest news headlines about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency world, they've got a great news site there. And you can engage with the community on the Bitcoin forum. Plus, if you're brand new, they've got the Bitcoin Academy that you can go through, and it won't take long just to give you the basics on what Bitcoin is and why it's so important. And, of course, cryptocurrency is huge here. And again, that's Bitcoin.com. Cryptocurrency is a big deal here at Anarchapulco. But that's not all. Last year, we spoke with the president of Liberland, and I've seen him here, so I know he's around. Pete Jedlika. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I can definitely pronounce your name. Stephen Melnik is here. Stephen V. Melnik, who is a CPA, but you're also involved with Liberland. Hello, Stephen. Welcome to Free Talk Live.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so glad to have you here. What is it that you do with Liberland? And what is Liberland? For listeners that are brand new, that are just tuning in, as we've talked about Liberland a bunch, but if they're just tuning in for the first time tonight and they're hearing Liberland, first, I guess tell me what Liberland is, and then tell me what you do with Liberland.
Liberland is the nation that proclaimed independence almost 4 years ago. It's a not very big piece of land that has been unclaimed by anyone. And it's located geographically between Croatia and Serbia. It's about 7 square kilometers.
Isn't it in the middle of the Danube River?
It's on the Danube River, exactly, on the west bank of Danube River. And basically it came about as a result of Yugoslavia's split up. So neither of our neighbors has claimed it. And if you look at the at most of the maps out there, it shows it as the land belonging to Serbia. But as soon as the country proclaimed its independence, Serbia stepped in and said, we have no claims to this territory, and neither does Croatia, but for now we're looking for recognition from all over the world.
Now, this was, 2014 when Liberland was? I feel like that's around the time when
it's actually, it was proclaimed on Thomas Jefferson's birthday, which was April 13th, 2015. So we're going to be celebrating a 4-year anniversary this year.
So the idea is to create a freer place, right? Hence the name Liberland.
Correct.
And it's very, very small. What is it, 3 square kilometers? Is that what it is?
7 square kilometers. It's the third country in the world after Vatican and Monaco.
Very, very small, but potential. It's kind of in a swamp, right? So it's going to need some work. Like they're going to have to get in there.
Well, I mean, there's some land, there is some swamp, but it's right on the river.
Yeah.
So potentially this could be a beautiful destination for tourism. But at the end of the day, I look at it as one of those nations. I call it Uber Nation because it's a very small piece of land, but already there are over 600,000 people who applied for citizenship. So the idea is not for people to actually live on the land. People are going to remain where they are. In vast majority of the cases. This is basically a place of belonging, place of citizenship, place for even companies. Over 170,000 companies already applied to be registered, exactly, with the Liberland. So this is about Uber Nation. You know, the way we look at society right now, you know, the biggest transportation company owns no cars. The biggest real estate company owns no hotels.
Airbnb.
Exactly. Yeah. And the biggest retailer owns no stores, right?
Amazon.
Although they're now coming back, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So the same idea. Liberland doesn't have to be huge in size to be the biggest nation, and that's the goal.
So what turned you on to it? I mean, you're a CPA, accountant. You work with you told me you work with like the regulatory body that regulates CPAs, basically?
Yeah, I'm an attorney, I'm a CPA, I'm a tenured professor, I'm a writer, and many, many other things. But what attracted me when I met the president, and...
where was this?
This was in Washington, D.C. I was asked to give a keynote address. This was AI conference, Washington Elite.
AI,
artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Yes, on blockchain. And I was in the middle of my worldwide tour, and I met the president, and I love the idea. You know, originally I come from Eastern Europe, former Soviet Union, and anytime I hear about the government, I get jitters. So when I hear about a country, and I love the United States, you know, I owe everything to it. I came here with the United States with $100 and nothing there, and was cleaning bathrooms when I started.
Did you escape from?
Yeah, I came as a refugee. Yes, and so God bless America, but in the same time, latest developments in the country just resemble too much of what I saw in former Soviet Union.
There's a lot of people who we've talked to on this show who have a similar story, that they got out of the Soviet Union. And now they see this, the writing's on the wall. They see the same stuff happening here.
Yeah. I mean, the life in Soviet Union, you couldn't say what you wanted to say or else.
Yep.
You either, go to prison, you lose your job.
You support the party or else.
Exactly, and that's what I see happening more and more. You were told what to say, what not to say, and how to say it.
Yeah.
So it's a scary development, to be honest with you. But so when I saw the idea of Liberland and basically coming back to the roots of even what the United States was created on, which is the idea of personal liberty, and that attracted me tremendously. And when I was asked by the government's cabinet, to help out, I was very happy to do so. And they asked me to help with their worldwide efforts, but also with policy from financial, legal perspective. And I said I would be happy to help. And in the capacity, they appointed me as their honorary ambassador at large worldwide. So I helped them.
How many ambassadors do they have? Is it just you, or is there a group of them?
As far as I'm aware of, I'm the only one that deals in global matters, and also I helped them out in the United Nations. So we just had a couple of very successful meetings in the UN a few weeks ago.
What is that like? I mean, because you're this little country that, is trying to do what it can do to, get recognized. And what was the meeting like? I mean, how did that...
Well, the latest meeting was with a mission from Haiti, and this was a wonderful, very effective meeting, and they're very welcome to the Liberland and the idea. I have to tell you, I mean, if you look what's going on in the world, and we were in Washington, D.C., actually, not too long ago. I met with heads of state and some of the elected officials. We visited offices of senators, and I have to tell you, and I think it's a true sentiment worldwide. People see what's going on. People see, this kind of pushback against individual liberties, against, freedom of speech, against, with bigger and bigger governments. And this idea resonates, and we see a lot of, little cracks happening around the world. And that's why, even though it's a small country, but as I said, it's already not a small nation, and it will be, God's willing, everything goes well, one of the biggest nations in the world, if not the biggest nation in the world. And, people will reside where they will reside, as I said already earlier. So governments of other countries and elected officials realize this fact, and they treat Liberland very seriously, and we appreciate it tremendously. We'd love to work with all the governments, especially our neighbors. We're looking to help them, economically, socially, to bring business.
The last time we talked about Liberland, before we had Vít on last year, the neighbors weren't being particularly nice. Croatia had been arresting in the early days, and I don't know if they still are, but they would try to, the early Liberland supporters were trying to actually go to the property, but there's no legal way to actually do it, apparently. So Croatia continue to arrest. They would send their border police after these people. So even though it's a no man's land and Croatia doesn't claim the land, they would still go and arrest everybody who was trying to go into it, even if they weren't coming from Croatia. So even if they were coming in from Serbia, they would still be arrested.
Absolutely.
Is that still going? Are any of those court cases still in play?
Well,
what's going on with that?
Speaking of court cases, the higher courts in the country said that they have to figure out and clarify the border situation and exactly the situation with what land belongs to whom. But I have to tell you, if you really think about it, I always put myself in the shoes of decision makers. Mm-hmm. It kind of makes sense. You have a country, all of a sudden, a bunch of guys coming from all over the world and start playing in your background,
right?
Whether it's your land or not. So Croatia actually is protectorate of the area right now, and they're trying to protect it till things are clarified. And it's actually good because the area protected. Liberland doesn't have its security forces or military, and the whole idea to be a very, very small government, basically to protect its people and to engage in diplomacy as its being biggest goals. So there's a lot of work to be done on the formal level, and that's exactly what the government is working on to formalize the relationship, to formalize recognition all over the world.
We'll talk more. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it, Stephen. This is Free Talk Live. This is Free Talk Live. We're at Anarchapulco 2019 on day number 3. All kinds of interesting folks here. Some we know from previous years, some we know from other libertarian gatherings, others who we've never met before, including Francis Hunt, who it's not your first time at Anarchapulco, but it's our first time meeting, so welcome.
Thank you very much. Glad to be with you.
You're also known as the Market Sniper, the Reset Sniper, the Crypto Sniper. Your website, themarketsniper.com. What's being sniped? Tell me about the Market Sniper. What is that?
The analogies, yes. So not specifically a gun freak, although I like the fact that good American citizens can certainly hold on to their arms, so I'm all good with that.
Yep.
It's more about an analogy. I'll give it to you quickly. In the Second World War, 250,000 rounds were fired for every fatality.
Wow.
You would consider that not particularly
not efficient.
Yeah,
no.
That's the word I use. I like it. You're straight onto it. That was infantrymen. During Vietnam, I'm afraid, I'm not having a go at you guys now, but add a bit of jungle, that number went up to 450,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of lead being thrown around into trees and in the air and keeping heads down and making a bit of noise, but not really efficient. If the game is to take somebody else down, an enemy, the snipers are where you want to be. So efficiency is the angle rather than murder. I'm totally against the war.
Me too. Totally anti-war.
So we're not for militarization in any way, but it's an efficiency analogy. And what do you think? I'll put it to you, Ian, a smart guy. How many rounds for a sniper to do the business?
1, 2.
1.3, you're absolutely right. Very, very efficient.
Rarely miss, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And what's the point of this discussion? What's the point of this analogy? The key thing is, the reasons why snipers are so good is that they only take a shot if they are highly convinced that they're going to get the kill. Mm-hmm. They're not thinking, am I going to hit him? They're saying, have I split him between the eyes? In terms of like a headshot. And the other thing is there's a high level of specialization, a high level of skills, and one of the reasons why they also don't throw so much lead in the trees is they rarely shoot. Most of the game is observation. Most of the game is preparation. Most of the game is bringing to bear exceedingly specialist tools to a specialist situation. When they throw down a chunk of lead, it's a big chunk of lead. It removes what it hits. So the efficiency of that is where we talk about trading. So the market snipe aspect is a trading element. So it's interesting you chose to choose that, but I'm gonna cycle to the reset sniper first and come back to the trading element. The key thing is, there's crazy stuff going on in the world, and you either understand that which cannot continue will end, or you don't get it. Most of your audience, I think, are already understanding that it's unsustainable and it will end. This is the great reset, hence the reset sniper. So what's going to happen is most people, if we have them in a room, are going to stand up and say it's got to end because it can't continue. But the problem starts to happen is people aren't clear on what to do about it. We've got a lot of great speakers that'll give you the amount of debt and the unsustainability and all of that. It's carried on a lot longer than many have thought. But the key point is, what do you do? And I'm on the sort of financial prep. I'm not the canned beans and shotgun and cigarettes as currency guy. Okay. I think there's space for that, by the way. That's not a knock on the guys that are doing that. It's about, power, wealth, money, and control structures, as I refer to them, all go hand in hand. If you study the history of Byzantine Empire, Babylon, etc., right the way through. And so people need to understand, what do we do? And they need to know the extent of the next crash is going to be so big that in the usual framing of problem, reaction, solution, there's going to be first a removal of liquidity out of the system. And it was kind of like 2008, only on steroids, possibly 5 times more brutal. I believe there's already a draft plan for how they will play it out. So the problem is massive bank failure, all of the usual things that we've seen before. It'll twist slightly compared to 2008. It won't be subprime houses. We know that we've pumped up debt in other areas, such as education, particularly university degrees in the US, car loans. I mean, I was in the States recently. You get 7-year finance for buying part of a car. My dad paid off his home in 7 years, you know what I mean? And that was not a depreciating asset, and a car, of course, is. So there's a lot going on, and the theme will be slightly different, but it's going to involve the same things. Okay. And the solution, in terms of central banks, tell us we have lots of tools. They don't have lots of tools. It's Control P. It's print. It's
the money.
Proliferation.
Print the money.
Exactly. It's quantitative easing again. Yep. They'll call it something different. They'll name it something different. They'll do lots of things. They can change bank reserve rates. These are all tweaks, but basically it's the volume knob. It either goes up or it goes down.
Oh, in Venezuela, they knocked 5 zeros off the currency recently. See, exactly. That solved everything.
Indeed. That's sort of the zeros and the accounting face. Of course, Zimbabwe, not far from Southern Africa, where I was. Yeah. By the way, that did give us a microcosm of what things tend to happen. Bitcoin did have a localized high in Zimbabwe that was about 5 or 6 times higher than other areas when that went down. I had traveled a lot to Ukraine prior to their crisis. I used to swap pounds for hryvnia. And then suddenly the airport stopped offering hryvnia long before the events and the troubles came. And I thought that was really interesting. And then the final time I did go post-crisis, it was clear. People knew that there was stuff going down. And the key thing is, with all these microcosms, they tell you a little bit of information. In other words, the pain of tomorrow can be seen in the seeds today, the crop that you grow. If you harvest weed seeds, you get weeds. We can see it in microcosms of what's gone on. In Ukraine, what happened is they straight away retracted the amount you could draw out of the bank per day. So this is something you can expect. You will suddenly...
Yeah, that's a bad sign.
Barred from access to your cash. That straight away helps perpetuate the deflation. Deflation first. This is the problem. When there's fear, there's deflation. Everybody stops spending. Everybody stops doing productive activity, contracts, lays people off, etc. So you get this violent contraction, which is the problem that they create. And then they come later with their solution, which they then gets perpetuated, and it's going to be a similar kind of solution that we've seen them generate before. Only the scale will be a lot larger. And the key point that's slightly different is that everybody has been coordinated and synchronized into the same problem. So we have a massive over-indebted situation in China. We have a property boom in Australia and New Zealand that's starting to deflate. All the issues. So we've synchronized the global economy. So it's an all fall down together. So many of the people... That
doesn't sound good.
No, it's not good. It's not good, and also it's required orchestration. In other words, there's been a synchronized theme through all central banks globally. You can call it random if you want. I don't believe in random events that seem to serve a particular cause. I think this is perpetuated. And the nature is we're going to have a reset in the financial system. So they already have a solution that will be brought to bear. But first, everybody has to get leprosy. You can't be in the leper colony if you haven't got leprosy. So even a country like Singapore says we've got a great problem. We want to conduct decent financial situation. We can't have the Singapore dollar over appreciating. We saw this in the Euro Swiss franc when we called it short twice prior to the Greek crisis, and then the second stage at the peg level. The Swiss were being swamped with Germans, Greeks, flooding money into Switzerland, selling the euro for Swiss francs. Why? Because they were proliferating euro. Obviously, it must devalue. And it was a landlocked country within the eurozone with better fundamentals, and they were over-appreciating. So they dropped their interest rates. They ended up with a property boom. So you get forced to become a leper. It's kind of like if everyone has HIV and you're in a gay community at one point, they're all kind of, to be part of the brotherhood, you got to infect yourself. And this is the global synchronized aspect that's going to make this far bigger.
Okay, so there's things people can do to protect themselves from this, right? If you see it coming, then you can do certain things, and cryptocurrency's got to be one of those aspects, right?
Yes, and with a caveat, no. You've got to be kind of careful. So here's the thing you've got to bear in mind. There's a sense of timing. Some things you can do that you can just kind of hodl your way through. You've got to hold through. Some things you've got to recognize that we might have to dance a little bit because the stepping stones, the minute you stand on them, start sinking. And when you get extreme deflation, say you lose your job or your business gets its income halved, everybody relies on everybody else. Even if you are absolutely powerful and you're off-grid and self-reliant, but you have an income that relies on other people and they are not, you are going to contract too. And the problem is, if you've taken the best steps in terms of insurance, like your gold, like your silver, the real hard money, you
don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? You don't want to do all crypto, maybe some gold, maybe some silver, and keep a little bit of fiat.
But you're going to need to survive while they crash those assets first. Look back at the charts in 2008 on gold and silver. They went from 1,030 down to 681 during 2008. Until the solution came, which was the QE. Then they went up. But first, the good guys that did the planning got shaken out at the bottom because they lost their job. And business cycle turned down. So in other words, the extremity and scale of the fear that will be generated, you have to make sure you aren't a forced seller of all your good planning. That's
absolutely.
A key point. That means you cannot have debt because they can spike the rates to turn you into a tenant in your own goddamn home.
Yeah, you don't want to have to sell that cryptocurrency in desperation at the very bottom, right?
The best laid plans of mice and men.
So these are some of the things you're talking about over at themarketsniper.com.
Absolutely.
On a regular basis.
Indeed.
You're producing, what do you produce? Video? Do you do
content? We have a premium community. I do free content for folks that just want to, the first time I'm hearing you. Please go sub on the Reset Sniper, the YouTube channel, the Crypto Sniper, and the Market Sniper. We see these as three overlapping circles, and the sights of your sniper rifle needs to hit that spot that catches all three of those. Recognize the system fails. Understand the fundamentals. That's all about the reset. Cryptos will play a role. Understand how they work. We were short this whole of 2018. People hated us. Why? Because people establish a belief system and they have fantasies.
Francis, we're short on time. I thank you. I appreciate it. TheMarketSniper.com. Go check him out. Real sharp guy.
Do you operate a retail business and are looking for a solution for point-of-sale cryptocurrency acceptance? It's never been easier thanks to AnyPay.global. There's no paperwork or approval process to open an account. If you already have a tablet at your cash register, you're almost done. Just sign up at AnyPay.global, drop your personal crypto wallet addresses in our setup page, and then load our app. That's it. You're accepting cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Dash at your store. Get started now at AnyPay.global. That's AnyPay.global.
Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. We are at Anarchapulco 2019, entering the third hour here of our Saturday show. Actually, we're still recording this on Friday. There's so much content here, so many people to talk to. I wish I could tell you how the Ron Paul speech was, but even though when you're listening to this, it's already happened, it hasn't happened yet as of when we're recording this.
We'll have more on that later.
Yeah, we'll know more later, probably by tomorrow or something like that. The event's been great. People been having a good time here. The vibe is, I would say, right on where it was last year. Yeah. It feels just like we picked right up where we left off last year. It
still feels like the premier Liberty event
it is.
In the world.
Derek J. agreed with me on that. We just had lunch, he and Steven and I, and he was talking with a guy that was at the other side of the table with us. New guy, just kind of got into all this within the last 2 months, And he asked Eric, well, why are you here? He says, well, it's because Ian told me this was the premier event to attend, that it was even better than Pork Fest, which is the classic camping festival, libertarian festival from the summer times. And he agreed. I said, was I right? He said, yeah, absolutely. This is the best event out there. And that's even with some of the cancellations. Apparently, Andrew Napolitano canceled.
Did he?
He did a Skype in last night, so that disappointed some folks. You don't want to come somewhere and sit and watch a Skype feed. But David Icke was on stage for 4 hours and gave an amazing presentation. I didn't see the whole thing, but saw the last half hour, and it was actually really good. Very metaphysical, very
pull the lid off of the
new
lizard
age.
people?
No, actually, according to the people who watched the full 4 hours, he did not bring up lizard people at any point. And I haven't seen him walking around here, so I'm hoping that at some point, if he's still here, I'm hoping we can get him over here to, ask him those questions.
I've got to find out about the lizard people.
All right, so it's Ian and Mark here as we continue. We've got a special guest, Joe Quirk, who is one of the folks involved with seasteading. And that's a topic we haven't talked about for a while here on Free Talk Live. Well, I remember years ago this was an issue that we discussed.
I've done some interviews on Edgington Post. It's just that you don't necessarily get to hear them, so they do go on the podcast and that sort of thing.
Sure, but on the radio show, which is where I'm involved all the time, we haven't talked about it in quite a while. So, Joe, welcome to Free Talk Live.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so seasteading. Explain for our listeners who are just tuning in for the first time ever tonight, what is seasteading?
Seasteading are floating islands with political independence. So nearly half the world's surface is unclaimed by any nation state. And we can settle the seas. The technology is at hand, as Bob Ballard says, and the Seasteading Institute is pushing forward the idea of startup nano-nations on the high seas. And at Anarchapulco is going to be the first time I announce the first seastead is floating in international waters right now.
Really?
And 3 people are living on it.
Oh, my God. Did you just announce it for the first time here, or have you already announced that at Anarchapulco?
Actually, I announced it for the first time on your show. Tomorrow I'm going to speak about it and show pictures of it and show what's going on and introduce you to the people.
Okay, perfect. So this isn't going to air until tomorrow night. So technically you're announcing it first at Anarchapulco, then it'll follow up with the announcement on the radio. That's big news because, for a long time I've been a critic of these alternative move here projects. We moved to New Hampshire as part of a libertarian migration to New Hampshire a decade, 12 years ago. And I'm like, seasteading sounds pretty cool, but I'll believe it when I see it. So now you're telling me we can see it?
You can see it. I'm going to show you a video of it tomorrow. And I'm going to release a whole documentary series about the first seasteaders and what they're doing, and we're shooting this together. Throw out your calendars. The century of seasteading began on February 2nd.
Wow.
So is Groundhog's Day? It's going to just keep happening again and again. So the first thing that comes to mind when somebody says, we have established a seastead and the 12 miles out from an international border, from a national border from international waters, is what about storms? It's the first thing that comes to mind.
So as the day we were going to launch this on the 10th anniversary of the blockchain block. And the biggest storm in nearly 60 years struck Thailand on that day.
Wow.
And we got the spar out there onto the water, and the spar survived just fine. So you got to engineer these things to withstand the weather.
The 60-year storm.
Yeah. But you really need a 1,000-year storm. And even more important, the 1,000-year wave heights. So the Ocean Builders is the company that's selling these. They want to sell 20 more seasteads to an audience like yours. And they've engineered it to basically withstand 5-meter high waves, which is like the highest waves seen in that area in 1,000 years.
That's a good size wave, no doubt.
So what are these? Are these platforms? What does it look like?
So imagine it's a spar about 60 meters long.
I don't know what that is.
What's it made of?
It's made of steel. So think of a wine bottle.
Okay.
And you float it out sideways onto the water.
Yeah.
And then you fill the bottom of the wine bottle with sand. The wine bottle stands upright with just the neck of it sticking above the ocean.
Yeah.
But 4/5 of it is below the ocean, and there's tremendous weight down at the bottom.
Yeah, it's sort of an anchor factor.
It's also anchored.
Yeah.
But it's you're basically floating. So it's and there's so much weight at the bottom that you're basically stable as a fence post in waves.
Huh. Okay.
So stable as a fence post. You're not moving at all in the waves?
You're not moving at all. One of the anchors has become detached, so they're moving a tiny bit.
Okay.
But the object is to pass the martini test, which is what I've challenged them with. You want to sit on the deck, pour a martini to the brim, and you don't see anything moving. So the whole
in the middle of a storm is the idea.
Well, at least in high waves.
Okay.
We'll see what happens in another high storm. But they've already faced very 20-knot winds just in the 3 weeks they've been out there, and they're surviving it all.
I imagined that you guys were going to have some wave action or something like that, but your intention is to live like you're on land, out on the water.
Yeah, you can't have civil society unless you solve the seasickness problem.
There's a lot of sailors out there that would disagree with you. What is it about wave action that's the problem?
That boats are designed to move through the water, not to sit still. And we have great videos of the boat being rocked around in the waves, pan over to the seastead is totally still.
Wow.
So if you put enough, Buckminster Fuller specified this 50 years ago for his design for a floating city. You have enough weight 100 feet below the waves, you can set up a totally stable city. And as he described it, the waves will be flowing underneath like rivers below bridges.
Does the water support the structure, or is it above the structure? Or is it below, I should say? The water is completely below.
Most of the mass of the seastead is well below the waves. So the place where waves happen is the interface between the air and the water. So 100 feet below the ocean, you have no problem. 100 feet above the ocean, you have no problem. So the trick is to get tremendous weight and strong ballast well below where the waves reach. And
so these go down 100 feet down?
This one goes down
structures?
60 meters.
60 meters.
So that's the spar. What about the structure itself, the domicile?
So the domicile is like a tiny home.
Okay.
And it's sitting on top of the spar.
How many square feet are we talking here? Square meters?
I've already forgotten, but it's like the size of a small apartment.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is a pilot project. And 3 people are living on it. They've been living there for about 3 weeks, so they're updating their YouTube blog.
Are these people related?
2 of them are in love. And another one is an aerospace engineer.
Soon to hate them. All right.
Yeah. So there's a Thai woman known as Bitcoin Girl Thailand. She's a celebrity in my circles. And then there's my friend Chad, who is a volunteer at my company, Blue Frontiers. They're both Bitcoin entrepreneurs, so they have flawless internet by which they run their businesses.
How do they have
from
flawless internet?
You'll have to ask them when I get them on live. But yeah, when I just had them answering questions at the seasteading 10th anniversary on screen from their seastead 12 miles out in the middle of the ocean.
So they're in international waters.
The domicile floats, or the domicile is above the waves? Why does the domicile not move? Their waves will move around the domicile. Why does the domicile not move?
Because it's like that. Think of that wine bottle where there's so much weight at the bottom.
Is it floating on the water? Is it above the water?
It's floating.
Is it below the water?
The wine bottle is floating on the water, and then you have a house on top of it, which also floats.
Okay, so Mark, did you miss the explanation where you fill the wine bottle with sand and then it goes beneath the waves?
Okay, so the wine bottle is not touching the ground.
The wine bottle is not touching the seafloor.
But it's heavy.
That's the spar.
That's the spar.
And nothing moves. So I guess it's the weight, the physics
it's the
of
mass,
having this.
It's the mass of
below
that weighted thing way below the waves. It's not being affected by the motion of the waves toward the top of the water.
Somehow
Am I right about that, Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
I was imagining you were talking about a giant steel stilt that was stuck into the ground that was holding a domicile at the top like a little lollipop.
Can be moved, right? Can this be propelled slowly through the water?
You can turn it sideways and then move it.
Really?
And so there's 2 parts to this. And there's nothing wrong with you not understanding because it's so counterintuitive to land-based people. How can you have something stable that isn't rammed into the ground below the sea?
Because it's massive, right? It's heavy.
You create enough mass deep below the sea where the waves reach, you can have a stable structure above
that makes sense
where you're
to me.
not moving in the waves at all. So the seastead itself...
I'm glad we finally caught you up to 10 minutes ago.
I'm trying.
I'm telling you, there's lots of people at home that are like, how does this work?
I thought the wine bottle was a good analogy. But anyway, more coming up here. Can you stay with us for another segment,
Joe?
All right. Joe Quirk is with us from seasteading.org. It's really a thing now, apparently, which is amazing. Really glad to hear that. More coming up here from Anarchapulco 2019. It's Free Talk Live, Anarchapulco 2019. Beautiful event, great people, meeting new folks. Joe Quirk is with us here from seasteading.org. We're going to talk more about the first seastead. It's real, it started, it's official. That's big news. And we're breaking it here on the radio on Free Talk Live. By the way, if you want to reach people with the ideas of liberty, slap a liberty sticker on the back of your seastead or the back of your car. Lots of people Love good bumper stickers, and they've got them over at libertystickers.com. They're witty, poignant, pithy, downright bombastic, and they're liberty-oriented. Over at libertystickers.com as we continue from the beautiful Princess Resort in Acapulco, Mexico. Ian and Mark here in our remote studio. And Joe Quirk, we were just talking about how these seasteads, which are kind of remote platforms, semi-anchored by large weight way down into the water to keep them stable. You're saying they are movable. So if they said there's 3 people on this very first seastead, 2 of the 3 are a couple. So if a couple breaks up while they're on the seastead, now it sounds like there's only one seastead, so they still probably wouldn't be able to move away from one another. But if there was more than one kind of connected together, one person could then move their seastead away and join another seastead, right?
Yes, that's the essence of seasteading, and they're already designing the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Their company is called Ocean Builders, and they plan on selling 20 more.
Okay.
And creating a little neighborhood of seasteads out there in international waters.
Is this only
area.
for the rich? What does this stuff cost?
It's cheaper than the average American home.
Tell me about it. What are we talking about here?
How much is the average American home?
So this first, it's about $200,000.
Is that so much? So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the average across all the homes in the world. So this seastead, this bare bones pilot, it cost about $150K to make.
Okay.
So this is the
and that's
minimal,
the first one.
This is the first one.
Now that's a tiny home, so it's going to have a less square footage than the average American home has.
Yes.
But the price is going to be less, and you have the advantage of having, a geopolitical designation that isn't constantly working against you. However, if you're an American citizen, it can still be a little more difficult because the United States government does claim your income, even if you're beyond the borders of the United States. But if you are international, the rate goes significantly higher. So I think it's like $250,000 for a family.
If they don't,
and then they start
if they can't
taxing
find your income, they can't claim it, Mark. So
it's true.
No.
Yeah, and these guys are cryptocurrency entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So no property taxes, no tariffs, no regulations. They're planning to take barges from China, no tariffs. So that you pay $150K
If they're getting a barge
for your
from
own
China,
country.
then they're not paying sales tax either.
No, wait. Is the
Yeah.
barge from China how they're going to get food? Like, how's that going to work? They're not going to just fish every day, right? Like, what's the plan for?
So they're already they're posting pictures of the tuna tartare they're making every day. They're growing
fishing is an
seasteads.
option.
It is. Okay.
They're growing They're growing seaweed on the seaweed food on the seastead. They're growing bio-rock on the spar. So
What is
we're calling
bio-rock?
It's like coralcrete. It's like growing a seashell city.
Okay.
So this is a kind of technique that's being advanced by the engineer of this thing. This attracts fish naturally. So you have a natural little ecosystem around your seastead. This is it's literally environmentally restorative to build seasteads on the ocean.
Interesting.
So you have cage-free.
You guys have some plan for all the plastic that's floating in the ocean, too. I've heard that at some point in the decade that I've been following you, but we'll see whether that pans out in the future.
Yes, we're starting small. Ocean Cleanup is launched from my hometown in California. That's Boyan Slat trying to clean up the ocean stuff in a totally different ocean. This is 12 miles in the Andaman Sea off the coast of Thailand.
Okay.
And the company is called Ocean Builders, and they built the first seastead in a few months.
I am just amazed by this. So the structure sits stable in the water, and then the waves, I guess, strike up against it. Is
The waves kind of go past it.
Okay.
So it's so you can create tremendous weight below, and then you have one pillar going straight up, and the waves are flowing past it. On top of the pillar sits the house. The pillar is designed for the house to go up and down depending on the height of the waves. This tiny house also floats. So say something happens to the spar and it sinks. The spar will just fall to the bottom of the ocean, say, and then the seastead will continue to float. The bad part is that the seastead will be bobbing around in the waves. That's what you don't want. The spar is the thing that provides stability. You can build a foundation for this building, and you can build a foundation in water that
What's
floats.
the spar cost out of this operation? Is it the most of the cost, or just a small fraction?
I actually don't know. So I know both of them together, with all the labor costs and everything, is about $150K.
Does that include delivery? Do they just plop it down, or do you have to, how does it get to where it needs to go?
Well, this first pilot they built onshore and then towed out there. And I was with them when they did all that, and we were filming them. Their plans now are to get pontoons out there and make a floating seastead factory, so they build seasteads on site.
On the water.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're going to be manufacturing seasteads according to your own laws, and then accepting, again, barges from China. So if you want a seastead, go to ocean.builders and join the neighborhood.
It's amazing. Now, obviously, when we're talking about building your own country, you're sort of talking in a theoretical sense. It's unlikely that any of the geopolitical designations out there are going to rush to recognize this new nation that is brought forth from the sea, right? Like I don't think China and the United States are going to be like,
Liberland's not been having an easy time with it.
No, it's not. It's the hardest part of all of this. What do you see as far as difficulties as far as that goes? I mean, in most countries in the world, you could simply pick up and go. The United States has its weird income tax laws, but other than that, I mean, most places you can just go any place you want to be, and they're not going to worry about you at all.
Yeah, well, the United Nations has an entire department devoted to the prevention of statelessness among children.
Yep.
So when that first baby is born on the seastead, and who knows, it may happen 9 months from now, then we have
there are people.
We have a humanitarian case, and I have legal volunteers that are passionate about seasteading that are impassioned to make an argument on the floor of the United Nations that these children deserve sovereignty, that they're their own country and they should be recognized as such. And then this will set a precedent for us to build as many seasteads as we want and start creating new societies founded not on force but on voluntary relationships where you can float away if you don't like it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love that that particular option. So for about $150,000, or at least that's what the prototype is, and it's amazing you're able to get prototype costs at the same cost as a house. But basically, for the cost of a house, and I presume you can't get a home loan for this.
Probably not.
For the cost of a house, you can now decide where you're going to live at pretty much any given time. If you don't like your neighbors, you pick up and you move. You're sick of your spouse, you take your two houses that are stuck together, you break them apart, and off you go.
Yep, and they can't see land from any direction. They see the sunrise, they see the sunset. They're on this beautiful tropical ocean. It's sun, it's fabulous, and it's
What's
really
the
beautiful.
depth there where they are?
60 meters.
Okay.
And so the spar is about 20 meters.
Right. And at this point, they're doing a lot of fishing and growing some algae, and then they're hoping to build new seasteads. How do you see this economy growing?
Well, they're already interacting with fishermen there. So they don't catch all the fish. Some of it they buy from local fishermen.
Okay.
So like the fishermen know they're out there. They've also, the first few days, they were getting visited by dolphins almost every day.
Yeah, the dolphins want to know what's up.
Yeah. And
they're very curious creatures.
So people don't realize the deep oceans are a kind of desert where there's not much life. And if you have solid stuff out there, life starts to attach to it. So you increase the amount of life on the ocean by building seasteads.
Interesting.
So they've already got fish. The Seastead X is a fish aggregation device, and sharks and dolphins are coming to check it out.
Looking forward to hearing how this grows in the future. Joe Quirk, thanks for coming on Free Talk Live with us here from Anarchapulco, and congratulations. This is a big step.
Yeah, host a show on the Seastead next week.
Seasteading.org. Check out more information over there. That was Joe Quirk, and this is Free Talk Live. We're at Anarchapulco 2019. Beautiful Princess Resort in
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. We're at Anarchapulco 2019. This place is full of interesting people to talk to, and we're loaded up with interviews to folks to discuss whatever it is that they do, the reason why they're here. It's Ian and Mark here in our remote studios at the beautiful Princess Resort right on the Pacific Ocean in Acapulco. Yet another just amazingly beautiful day here with good folks all around. Yesterday I was talking with somebody who I'd met a decade ago at PorkFest, a guy named Shane. And he was telling me, we talked about a few different things, but he told me he was working on a new project called Divvy, which is not just a cryptocurrency wallet, but other things like that. We can get into it here in a moment. But he said Nick was actually the guy to talk to about this on the air. And so we have Nick Saponaro.
That's correct.
Nick Saponaro.
Well done. Wow.
Is with us here. And so you wanted to talk about some of the usability issues with cryptocurrency. Is that what you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the greatest issues holding us as an industry back from seeing adoption from the non-technical users.
It's got to be easy. And we're a decade into Bitcoin. Bitcoin celebrated its 10th anniversary in January, and it's definitely easier now than it was in 2011 when we first heard about it. But there's still some complexity. There's still a learning curve, and you're saying it needs to be easier than that. So what are the current issues that you see that people are having the greatest difficulty with?
So I think there's a lot of, number one, jargon. When you first start up a wallet, the onboarding process is very confusing and scary to some degree. When you see things like, if you lose your password, we cannot recover it for you.
Yeah.
You are screwed.
You're gonna die.
Right. And while that will still remain true in the future, I'm sure, we need to refrain from immediately scaring off the person that's starting to use this application. You lose somebody every time you hit a point of friction. So we call it the friction tax, right?
Sure.
And a big thing that we're trying to do at Divvy is remove that friction tax. So from the moment you start using cryptocurrency, whether that be through Coinbase or what have you, I mean, that is a point of friction in itself. If you want to buy an altcoin after you buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, now you have to go to another exchange, another point of friction. You're just losing people all along the way until you get down to the small percentage of people that really want to use it.
The fanatics.
The fanatics that we see right now that are using it.
Right.
I had an interesting incident. I was at my mother's house probably, it's been 3 or 4 weeks now. It seems like it was just around the corner, but I've been traveling so much recently. And she was attempting to do something with PayPal. She was just getting into PayPal.
Right.
I realized my mother's 77. So she was attempting to use PayPal, and they were having some trouble moving some money back and forth from my uncle to her. They're going on some trip. I think they're going to Egypt to, I don't know, see the pharaohs and stuff. There's some professor who's an Egyptologist, and they're going to look at this stuff. Anyway, somebody had to pay for somebody else's ticket, and I don't know exactly what it was. She was really frustrated with the PayPal interface.
Right.
And this company's had, 20 years now to get things easy to use and that sort of thing. She doesn't like banking online. She wants to go there and talk to the teller. So there are people out there with varying degrees, even amongst the unwashed masses, of the ability to use these things.
That's correct. And if we're not at least attempting to service those people, we're doing a disservice to ourselves.
It's a giant market.
It's a huge untapped market, and it seems like a lot of projects and influencers, if you want to call them that, within the space talk about this all the time. Oh, we need to make it easier to use. Once it's easy to use, everyone will use it. But then no one's actually doing anything to accomplish that goal. So we saw that as an opportunity at our company, and that's what we've been moving towards for the past 2 years.
So Divvy, I had not heard of it before. The wallet is available? Is that right?
Correct. So you can download the desktop wallet right now.
Okay.
And the coolest part about the wallet as it stands right now is
hold on. Linux, Mac,
Windows. And Windows.
Okay.
And it will be coming out on mobile, Android and iOS.
But not yet.
No, that'll be probably within the next 3 months.
How new is this desktop release? Is this pretty new?
We came out in September of 2018.
All right.
So it's pretty new.
Yeah.
But we've garnered a fair amount of users in that short period of time.
So you're about to paint a picture of this for us? So you're going to tell us?
Yeah. So the coolest thing you can do with our wallet is deploy a masternode with one click.
What is that?
Deploy a masternode.
Correct. Are you guys familiar with masternodes at all?
Yes, we are.
What it is, yeah.
And I know that you have to generally, if you don't know how to do Linux, IT work, basically, you can't start a masternode. It's not an easy process. What's this one-click stuff all about?
That's correct. So we, again, saw that as an opportunity because the masternode niche, while small, actually makes up about 3% of the entire crypto market cap. So there's huge room for growth there. So we took the traditional masternode process and literally turned it into one click. It's as easy as pressing play on iTunes on a song. You simply select the masternode that you want, click deploy,
No, wait.
And you're
When you
off.
say you select the masternode that you want, do you mean for different cryptocurrencies?
So right now it's just Divi, but we actually have 5 entry points with Divi. So you can purchase the lowest tier, we call it masternode, is 100,000 Divi, which right now costs about $230.
Okay.
Going all the way up to 10 million Divi, and that's like 25 grand right now.
Wow.
But there's levels of entry all in between, and we believe that gives a little bit more accessibility to people.
And what's the value of these masternodes? Why do I want to do that?
So right now they help you to generate an income in cryptocurrency. In the near future, we'll be using the masternodes to facilitate different things such as the transfer of metadata and things of that nature.
So the masternodes traditionally, as I understand it, they provide certain services to whatever cryptocurrencies network that we're talking about, whether it be Dash or Divi or whatever masternodes. Not every cryptocurrency has these things. Only some of them do.
It's an idea, technology.
Yeah. And so those people who are willing to invest in what used to be some significant time and effort into creating one of these things would then provide services to the network, and they're rewarded with some of that crypto.
That's right. Sometimes it's private
wallet.
transactions, like with Dash. For us, it's securing and verifying transactions in the network.
Okay.
And it secures the network in a pretty major way because so many people are allocating these coins to the masternode. You mitigate that risk of being 51% attacked to some degree.
So one-click masternodes, that's a big deal. Is that actually happening now, or is that coming soon?
You can do that right now.
Wow. All right. That's pretty impressive.
So why would I want to pick Divi over the thousands of cryptocurrencies that are out there, especially the major big boys in the top 20?
Yeah, no, I love that question. It's a very good one. And generally, the answer is our vision actually will achieve what we were talking about in the beginning of this conversation, which is usability, and not just for Divi. So, of course, we're starting with Divi because it's our coin, but we'll be building in interoperability solutions and ease-of-use solutions for all coins, including those top 20 coins.
Interoperability, what does that mean?
So we're building our own Lightning network. That'll be coming out within the next basically month. We're already testing that on our testnet. This allows us to create atomic swaps between Bitcoin, Divi, for any other atomic swap.
An atomic swap means where you don't need an exchange, right? You don't need this intermediary company or a third party to conduct an exchange between one cryptocurrency and a different cryptocurrency. So if I have Dash and I want to get Bitcoin, an atomic swap would allow me to do that somehow. I still don't know how all this works, and we can't explain it, I'm sure, for our
it's
general
kind of like
audience.
a smart contract, in a way, just to simplify it.
Right, and that makes it possible to cut out the middleman, cut out the exchange. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Which is a huge deal.
Right. I mean, in this future world where we're using cryptocurrencies, it could very well be that, I want to buy a sandwich from Ian. I've got Divi. Ian accepts Bitcoin, and to be able to use your product, then I would be able to, use my cryptocurrency, or maybe I've got smart cash. Right?
And that's exactly the goal.
Yeah, and that's really important. At this point, that is a huge level of friction in the marketplace.
And I couldn't agree more. Seriously. Yeah. And that's exactly what we're trying to solve.
So as far as ease of use, what are some of the other features that you already have or are coming very soon?
So
as far as?
in the very, very near future, we're about to do our first hard fork, which will implement the Lightning, atomic swaps, and human-readable addresses. So rather than seeing that crazy string of numbers and letters, you just see Free Talk Radio,
right.
or whoever you want to
string of words that,
that a human can read.
Right.
Exactly. And we're not the ones that came up with this idea.
Sure, that's an old idea.
Yeah, but we believe that is a huge step towards, my grandma being able to use it, your mom being able to use it. They're going to look at those crazy numbers and letters and just completely
Can you stick with us for another segment here? 100%. More coming up here with Nick Saponaro from the Divi, both cryptocurrency and wallet. And as I understand it, it's a multi-crypto wallet as well. Let's get into a little bit more about that coming up here from Anarchapulco 2019. It's Free Talk Live. We are at Anarchapulco 2019, and it's been a great event. There's still a whole nother day to go tomorrow, and we'll be bringing a taste of it to you here, because that's the best we can do, is just bring a little taste of what this event has been like. So maybe you'll want to come join us for, I presume we'll be at Anarchapulco 2020. They're already saying they're going to have one, so that's good news. We'll bring you more information on that as soon as we get it here. And so we've been talking with Nick Saponaro. He is the lead developer behind the Divi project over at Divi project.org. And we kind of touched on the cryptocurrency aspect, and it's also a wallet as well, a multi-crypto wallet. Nick, you've been expressing to us that it's important to simplify the onboarding, the beginning process for somebody who's new to cryptocurrency. I know all about this. In Keene, New Hampshire, where I live, we're running radio ads, actually promoting, mainstream radio stations. 5 stations right now are airing pro-Bitcoin ads, just to kind of explain just the basics. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. Just kind of explaining some of these. We asked around, like, what are the major objections you hear? Oh, it's too complicated. Oh, it's so we're trying to. It's easier than you think, and it is. It is easier than you think.
Sure.
But it could be easier, and it can always be a smoother process, and that's what you guys are working on over at the Divi Project, diviproject.org. So you were telling us that you're going to have names, or do you already have the short names for wallet addresses?
The short names will be coming out with our hard fork, and we're projecting that to be within the next 2 months, but don't quote me on it. These things
hard forks, I heard those were bad.
Yeah, they can be. I think the term fork is inappropriate for most of the upgrades to the ecosystems that we see. They should just be called upgrades.
Right, because then there's the other type of fork, which includes forking the blockchain itself, where you're splitting the actual ledger into two, and then there's 2 different competing currencies, and so it's like, which fork are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about the upgrade fork. Okay, so yeah, another confusing jargon, as you were talking about before.
And the more we can remove that jargon, and I'm guilty of it too, obviously.
Right, well, these were the words that they used when we got into the crypto movement.
Right, so we're constantly aware of it, because every time we're doing, discussion about cryptocurrency, we always have to think, oh, wait, we're not, even though we're at a cryptocurrency conference basically right here, we're not talking to cryptocurrency users. The people listening to this discussion, half of them probably for the first time have never even heard anything discussed about Bitcoin before.
They may know the word.
Yeah, they might have heard Bitcoin somewhere, but somebody just got into their rental car at the airport, put the key in the ignition, turned it on, and they're just now tuning in right now to what we're saying. So we always have to remember that that's who we're talking to, and so we're always aware of the jargon and constantly trying to stop down and say, oh, a masternode, what's that? And trying our best to re-explain constantly whatever it is that we're talking about. So we're pretty good at it.
The challenge that creates, though, is that it can be more difficult to get deep into an issue.
That's true.
As you keep explaining all the basics.
We're just not that show. We're not the show that can get deep into it. That's the crypto show, and they do a great job. And if you haven't been on their show yet, you ought to.
Yeah.
So let's see. So these short names, is this a centralized service?
No, so it's actually secured by the same cryptographic security that the account names, the account numbers, as we were just discussing, are the wallet addresses.
Right, because these wallet addresses, for listeners that have never tried this before, when you create a new Bitcoin or cryptocurrency wallet, and it'll show you your receiving address, it's this jumble of letters and numbers. If you screw one digit up, you could lose everything forever, or maybe it won't let you send it all if you're lucky. But you don't want to copy that thing down manually. It's impossible. No. You're going to screw it up. And yet you wouldn't believe how many people that I try to introduce to cryptocurrency, like, oh, just send me your wallet address, and then they'll send me an address, and I'll try to put it in to send them, because I do like a giveaway where I give away free cryptocurrency to people in Keene that respond to the address, or respond to the advertisements that we run, and then I'll put it into my Exodus wallet, which is another good desktop wallet, to try to send them some free Dash or some free Bitcoin Cash. I'm like, that didn't work. There was something wrong with your address. You didn't actually copy that down by hand, did you? They're like, oh yeah, no, you got to use the copy button. You got to use the paste button. There's no other way to do it.
It's crazy how many people actually do try to type them out.
Yeah.
We have a support telegram, and we have a support center on our website, and a lot of the support requests are, I can't send to my friend, or this isn't working for whatever reason, and send me a screenshot of your address or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually, with their phone, take a picture of their screen, and so that these people are probably not the most tech savvy.
Nope.
because of course most computers have a screenshot functionality.
They did develop a system, though, right? Like they got you halfway there. That's amazing.
But I mean, even if you try 2-3 times to copy one of those things, you're almost always going to make a mistake.
You almost have to have somebody else shouting the numbers to you.
I had a guy who wanted me to sell him some Bitcoin. This must have been 2014 or something. It was at Keenvention. He brought it written on a piece of paper in pencil. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this thing?
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. So the idea of the short name is to make it memorable, something you can just tell
easy,
someone.
Searchable in your wallet, what have you.
And so the reason I asked is it going to be centralized is because, everything in the big deal in cryptocurrency is decentralization. So you don't want to have some company being the holder of the keys of your wallet, number one. And you also don't want to have a company with a service that provides this, short name service to sort of substitute, because the short name's a cover for whatever the long...
We didn't want to be a substitute. We didn't want it to just be an account name. We could use regular authentication and just have an account, but then you introduce the same issues that we already see with traditional web architecture and security flaws and all that stuff. So it's actually secured by cryptography in the background, and the metadata, or the small bits of data that actually tell the blockchain that your username is, Nick at Divi Project, what have you, is actually secured by the masternodes. So this is where the utility of the masternodes starts to come into play.
Okay.
So the masternodes can store this metadata because of the varying tiers. They can actually, the higher tiers are larger masternodes and can store more data. So we probably won't even touch the smaller masternodes for years. And this allows for us to decentralize the registration process and
for the name, to grab the name.
Exactly. And no one ever really knows the name. The blockchain has a hash. We call it a hash. It's just basically a signature. It's like
it proves it's unique.
It proves that it's unique. It's like if I sign a check, that the check is endorsed, right? So the masternodes are basically...
But in this case, nobody can forge your signature.
100%, exactly. So, it's fully decentralized.
Very exciting. So that's coming. That's not there yet, but the desktop software is available.
Desktop's ready.
Divi, tell me, what cryptos are you guys launching with on the desktop software? What can I store with?
So right now it's Divi. Bitcoin is being worked on right now, and we're actually working on, this is actually going to be exclusive to you guys. We haven't announced this yet, but we're going to be launching Dash one-click masternodes on the wallet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big deal.
That'll be awesome.
We love Dash because in Keene, New Hampshire, where we live, it's the big one. When you're using crypto in real life, it's Dash, because the folks over at anypay.global have made it super easy to pay with that stuff. So I'm excited. I think that you guys, it sounds like you got something cool working.
How long for that launch?
Bitcoin, the hard fork, like I said, within the next 2 months. We try not to give hard dates.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me.
But the infrastructure...
I got a website. I know what it's like.
Yeah, exactly. The infrastructure for the multi-coin is being built out. It'll probably launch around the same time, 2 to 3 months. Yeah,
very cool.
We're in testing. We test like crazy. We have a team of beta testers, and it's got to go through security audits and all that stuff as well. So
is there anything that we didn't ask you about the Divi project that you thought you wanted to share?
No, I mean, we mainly wanted to touch on the usability factor. I think that's probably the biggest thing, or one of the biggest things holding crypto back, as well as the centralization of exchange, which, again, we'll be
Were you here
about.
last year?
No, this is my first year.
time. So what do you think so far of Anarchapulco?
I'm having a great time. I did a tantric meditation thing yesterday. That was eye-opening, to say the least. And
what does that mean?
I don't know yet. It sounds
tantric to me just
still don't know.
Sting and sex. That's all I really got from it.
I definitely thought it was going to be like this sexual thing, but it's not. It's not sexual at all.
No happy ending. All right. Okay.
Well, it depends. I guess it's in the eye of the beholder, right?
Okay.
But no, some of the talks have been absolutely incredible, and David Icke yesterday was pretty awesome.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I could only watch the last 2 hours of it. I know
the last 2 hours.
It was a 4 hours.
The guy talked for 4 hours.
Now, has he been around? Have you seen him today at all, or did he take off last night?
He probably dipped out.
I figured he's. With the big speakers, a lot of them, they're always like in and out. They just show up for their speech and then they go.
G. Edward Griffin wanders around this whole place all the time. You can stop and talk to him. It's amazing. I think he's great. The guy, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island.
I haven't seen him yet today, but he's a cool guy.
It's a tome, admittedly, but nonetheless, it's one of the most formative and important books in the Liberty Movement. The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin.
Where are you based? Where are you based out of?
I'm in San Diego. Our company's actually based out of Costa Rica, where our CEO lives. So we're a decentralized company.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
so many are.
Yeah, I mean, we're all remote, and it's
Is that
great.
the CEO standing right there?
That's him.
Okay, very good.
I'm sure your listeners can see him. Say hello.
Just curious. All right, cool. DiviProject.org. Check them out. I'm excited to see this develop. I'm glad you guys are working on that.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Thanks, Nick. And thanks for being so patient today. I know it wasn't easy to get in here.
My pleasure.
It's been crazy. It's been a busy day. Lots of people here. And we got more coming up tomorrow. So join us from Anarchapulco for day number 4. That's tomorrow. We'll see you in the meantime.
There are basically 2 types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.